All right, so in this video, we are going to talk about the different forms of energy. All right, so as I said in the last video, we can take energy and separate it into two general categories. So the first category is potential energy, and this is what we think of as stored energy. All right, so stored energy. We can describe it as the energy of position or configuration. So kind of like how things are arranged relative to other things is going to give an object potential energy. So the different kinds of potential energy that we can really commonly think about, we've got chemical potential energy. So this would be like the potential energy that we have stored in the food that we eat or the fuel that we burn to power our power plants or cars. All right. So those chemical bonds have energy in it. And when we break those chemical bonds, energy gets released. So that release of chemical energy, some bonds do better than other bonds at releasing chemical energy, but that release of chemical energy can then be used to do other things. All right. The next type of chemical, or not chemical energy, potential energy is elastic energy. So, and I'm going to kind of demonstrate here with my hair tie. So, with elastic potential energy, um, if you stretch something, all right, those of you who like to use rubber bands to like hit other people with them, if you stretch it, you know that there is some potential in that stretched rubber band. As soon as you let it go, it snaps back to its original shape. So stretching that an object that has elasticity to it can create an elastic potential energy. And this is just an easy example because we're familiar with how rubber bands work. But elastic potential energy is more than just things that are obviously stretchy. Springs have elastic potential energy, but it's any sort of um, energy that we would have from compression that when it's compressed, it wants to snap back out once that pressure is released, or that tension, that stretching. So if it stretches and then it wants to snap back. So it's that whole idea of you do something to the object and then it wants to snap back as soon as what you're doing to hold it in that configuration, hold it into that arrangement. Once that's done, it's going to take that energy that it had and create a kinetic energy with it. The potential energy of nuclear power, nuclear energy, deals with the um, energy that's stored in the nucleus. If we have an unstable nucleus, then that nucleus will produce or release that energy of its unstable arrangement when it undergoes radioactive decay or nuclear fission or nuclear fusion. Now, I don't want to say the most common, but the type of potential energy that we're most often going to see in class is this last one, which is gravitational potential energy. So, this is the idea that because of something's position, relative to the center of the earth has that gravitational force on it. So the force of gravity wants to pull things down. But if there's something holding it up, there's that distance between the ground and the object. So my hair tie, I'm sitting here holding it up. My arm is providing distance between the ground and my rubber band. So this is creating a potential. It has the ability to do work, but it's not doing work yet. All right. So again, position. The farther it is, the more it's going to have potential to do work. The second type of energy, second general category, is kinetic energy. And we can use kinetic energy um, when we talk about, or we can talk about the kinetic energy of objects like any sort of substance, a ball, or a car but also we can talk about kinetic energy of things like electrons or atoms or waves like ocean waves. So kinetic energy is the energy of motion. So we're dealing with when things are moving. So different types of kinetic energy, and we're mostly going to think of kinetic energy as this motion energy. All right, now motion energy, think of that like a ball rolling down a hill. All right, the ball in motion has kinetic energy. But we can also think of kinetic energy in terms of electrical energy. So electrical energy is the energy that's produced or that's used, that's, I don't want to say created because it's not created, but it's the energy that we can observe when we have the movement of electrons. So whenever we talk about electricity, we flip our light switch and ooh, we get light. That happens because electrons are moving through a wire. And it's the movement of those electrons that produce the effects that we see, which is the light. We also have radiant energy. So radiant energy um, we can talk about it as an energy of motion because things like light waves move through space or through a medium like water or glass and or air. And we can talk about the waves moving that produce this energy. Heat can radiate. It can cause energy, or it can cause an increase in movement of the particles, or even just a change in movement. And that leads to thermal energy. So thermal energy is that energy that something has based on how much heat it has. So if something is giving off heat, it's radiating heat, it's transferring thermal energy from itself to something else, and it's making that other object warmer while it is cooling off. You can think of thermal energy like when you have a cold water bottle that is sitting on a table on a hot summer's day. The water bottle is absorbing heat from the outside, from the hot day, from the hot sun. It's absorbing heat. And in doing that, it's causing a change in temperature of the air around it. Motion energy, or what we often think of as kinetic energy, or this is mechanical kinetic energy, would be the, like I said earlier, the energy of something that's moving, like a moving object, something that's falling, something that's sliding across the ground. So things like that. A person running has mechanical kinetic energy. And then sound energy, because sound waves, they're waves, so they're causing particles to move. And in causing particles to move, you've got movement, which means you have kinetic energy. Now, when we're talking about all these different types of energy, any one particular object can have a bunch of different types of energy. It can have certain types of potential energy and certain types of kinetic energy. And if we look at an object or collection of objects as a system, so let's say I've got my cold water bottle sitting on the table in the hot day. So the water bottle and the air around it can be described as a system. And the energy of that system is taken into account the air and the water and the cold water. And we can look at the total energy of the system and evaluate all of the different types of potential and kinetic energy that is within that system. Right? It's a little harder to do if it was just one object, but if we look at the system as a whole, we can evaluate and look at how all these different types of energies can work together. All right. So in the next video, we are going to look at conservation of energy and energy transformations. All right. So I will see you then.